So we're going to set aside our normal process, and we're going to allow the council office to give a presentation at this time. But before you speak, I want to be clear that we extended some additional time for the applicant to give the presentation, and we deviated from our 1 to 3 minute presentation to give you 5 to 10 minutes, correct? What we want to do is want to offer that same amount of time and same deviation to the appellant in this case. So the equal justice time will be given a similar 5 to 10 minute extended time to present their case. Okay. So just want to clear up that little housekeeping matter. Council office.
Hi, my name is Ashley Thomas. I work for Councilmember Marquise Harris Dawson, who unfortunately...
Can you slow down, state your name again?
Sure. Ashley Thomas. I'm the Communications Director for Councilmember Marquise Harris Dawson. He wanted to be here, but unfortunately is homesick. So I wanted to read a letter on his behalf. I am writing to express my support for the possible plugging of oil wells and the cessation of oil production on the Jefferson drill site. This site has been a problem in my district for decades. The new owner, Sentinel Peak, has expressed interest in making drastic improvements on the site by shifting away from production and towards closure, which I applaud. I understand that this closure will take some time. In the meantime, oil production and related activities continue, and the corrective conditions issued by the zoning administrator last year to mitigate the nuisances and public safety threats due to these activities have yet to be implemented. In September of 2017, the Los Angeles Department of City Planning, Office of Zoning Administration, added a series of significant health and safety measures, including installing a fence line air monitoring system to measure any toxic and odorous emissions, installing a vapor recovery piping system, implementing a new spill prevention control and countermeasure or SPCC plan, discontinuing the use of diesel rigs in favor of electric rigs, and installing a 24-hour noise vibration monitoring system. We would like to see all of these conditions enforced immediately. Additionally, I would like the site eventually cleaned to residential standards to prepare the land for other uses. I personally know residents who have suffered dearly from living by the oil drilling site. The dozens of oil wells located on less than 2 acres are in the middle of a residential neighborhood. Other urban oil drilling sites in West Los Angeles have already had in effect the aforementioned corrective conditions that were often voluntarily done to ensure the health and safety of neighborhood residents. I am demanding the same consideration for the residents of South Los Angeles. I appreciate the time and due diligence of all city staff for working towards a satisfactory resolution. With hope, Councilmember Marquise Harris Dawson, and I'll submit it for the record.
Yes, we'll take that. Thank you. So we've taken that out of order. So at this time, again, we want to start with the presentation by the applicant. Of the presentation with the applicant giving their presentation, then we'll follow with the Earth Justice representative. Fine. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much for letting me speak before you today. My name is Amanda Parsons, and I'm here on behalf of Sentinel Peak Resources to discuss plan approval modifications to allow for the abandonment and eventual repurposing of the oil field located at 1349 Jefferson Boulevard in South Los Angeles. For those who aren't familiar with my company, we are an oil and gas producer that is about to have its 2nd birthday. We came into existence and acquired the site on Jefferson Boulevard on January 1st of 2017. When we inherited these 36 wells, we also inherited a concerned community of neighbors who are advocating for greater protections on the site. Now, I cannot speak to the site's past, but rather I'd like today to focus on its future. This application is about listening to what the community wants and avoiding a prolonged legal battle. It is about creating a win-win-win, a win for the community, for the city, and for us, the operator. It is about doing this abandonment in the fastest and most successful way possible. Following our purchase of the Jefferson site, a number of conditions were placed on its operations in the form of PA5. These were numerous and onerous conditions. What we propose today is a modification of those conditions, which we will call PA6, that will allow my company to begin the plugging and abandonment of the site so that it may be repurposed for another use. Instead of a protracted lawsuit, we are here to offer a different solution, which results in what the community ultimately wants. In good faith, we have pulled 14 abandonment permits from Dogger, the agency that oversees oil and gas operations for the state, and we have plugged one of those wells on the site already. With the approval of PA6, we would move forward with full site abandonment. With your approval of PA6's suggested modifications outlined in our application packet, we would expect full abandonment and environmental remediation of the site to take up to 3 years, although we hope it will take much less time than that. At which time, a developer could come in and repurpose the site. Remember, my company has effectively plugged and abandoned a site similar to this one on 4th Avenue. We have the knowledge and experience to do this right. As we gradually plug and abandon the site, well by well, production will gradually decrease until it is time for site demolition and then remediation. As we progress, we intend to obtain all necessary permits throughout to facilitate this exit strategy. We also will be regularly inspected as we continue to be inspected today. We plan to remediate the site to the strict standards that would allow for the safe residential occupation of the site in the future. What we propose here with PA6's modifications are common sense alterations to conditions that will allow us to ready the site for repurposing as soon as possible. This is the fastest and most effective way forward. For example, conditions in PA5 call for the erection of a 45-foot wall surrounding the site. This would run counter to the abandonment of this parcel because constructing something only to rip it down months later is counterintuitive to the process. Planting new landscaping would also be silly, as we would plant these new plants only to rip them out months later. Constructing other very high-cost instrumentation additions to the site would also run counter to the process, as they would simply be removed after a number of months. Another key point to present with these proposed modifications is that the majority of the conditions outlined in PA5 are applicable to drilling, maintenance, and workover rigs. The plugging and abandonment process would require neither of these. So, this makes our proposed alterations even more common sense. We have crafted a helpful breakdown of the proposed PA5 modifications that we are calling PA6 that I hope will assist you in better understanding our requested changes. I'll submit those now. Our intention with this proposal is not to sidestep regulatory oversight or to ignore our environmental obligations. As I stated earlier, we will pull all necessary permits and continue our regular inspections throughout. It is intended to streamline the abandonment process so that it may be done quickly, cost-effectively, and responsible while fulfilling the desires of the community. Now is a time when it makes economic sense for my company to do this, but it does not make economic sense without the proposed PA6 modifications. This abandonment is a win for the city, and only you can get us across the finish line. Please consider adopting these proposed modifications so that the repurposement of this site can take place. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parsons. Okay, so the next is Ms. Angela Johnson. Zeros. Did I pronounce your last name right?
That was very close. Bizarres.
Okay.
Thank you and good morning. I am Angela Johnson Bizarres, and I'm here to represent Redeemer Community Partnership in this PA proceeding before you. I just like to be clear that we're quite pleased that Sentinel has determined that it makes economic sense for them to abandon this site. And we look forward to the day when this operation no longer is in this community. But it's not exactly correct to say that it's a win-win-win for the community. The outcome is certainly solid, but there's a path between where we are now and where we'll be some 3 years ago that's also important. In its project narrative, Sentinel asserted, without support, that the conditions in PA5 were predicated on a long-term operations continuing at the Jefferson drill site. They offer no support for this assertion because there is none. Rather, the record is clear that the conditions in PA5 were predicated on the need to protect the community from harms and threats posed by the site. And in particular, PA5 Road. Based on the review of public records, site visits, public testimony, and input from other public agencies, it was concluded that the current operation of approval imposed on the subject drill site were not sufficient to preserve the health, safety, and general welfare of the surrounding residential neighborhood. Therefore, revisions have been made to the conditions of approval for the Jefferson oil site in order to maintain reasonable noise levels, improve odor control, and monitor hazardous conditions. While we cannot ignore that Sentinel has put on the table the economic rationale for abandoning their sites, we also cannot and will not ignore that Sentinel intends to continue full operations at the site for a period that they estimate to be up to 3 years. And yes, there may well be declining production as they abandon wells, but nonetheless, the operations will continue. And we're urging you to not ignore this fact, too. While we would be prepared to accept that building new permanent structures at the site now, only to remove them when abandonment is completed, may possibly be wasteful, we are not prepared to accept that the community is no longer entitled to the protections to their health and safety and general welfare that were envisioned by PA5. The purpose of the enclosure was to preserve the health and safety and general welfare of the community, and this cannot be forgotten as the city considers Sentinel's application. To be candid, Sentinel can't have it both ways. They cannot both say that they'd like to continue operations without installing any additional protections for the community, and then also argue that all the conditions that were put there should be stripped because that's a win-win-win for the community. They're not going to enclose the facility. Also, they're not going to install a fence line monitoring system. They're not going to update their spill prevention, control, and countermeasures plan. They're not going to monitor for noise or vibrations. They're not going to implement an early detection system for hydrogen sulfide or methane. They're not going to install a state-of-the-art fire protection system. They're not going to ensure that quarterly monitoring of their operations is conducted by the fire department. They're not going to arrange for all the oversight agencies to review that the site's compliance with all applicable rules. They're not going to provide proof that they're in compliance with the conditions of the approval from the original parent case. They're not going to hold a public hearing to review compliance with the conditions in PA5, all conditions that were set out in PA5 determination. Oddly, Sentinel even wants the ZA to strike the condition that sets out the ZA's authority to ensure that Sentinel is operating in compliance with its permit. Even when there's documented evidence showing that there has been continuing violations of those conditions. We don't support striking any condition put in place by PA5 that was put there for the purpose of increasing protection and preserving the health, safety, and general welfare of the residents of the neighborhood. Conditions such as those that I mentioned. But we do have some things that we do support. We support the shortest possible time between now and the time that the site is abandoned. We believe that 2 years would be possible based on the work that Sentinel has already done at the 4th Avenue.